Togekiss, Corviknight, Gastrodon, and Excadrill, and Alberto on the, Alberto's on the right-hand side of your screen, running Togedemaru, Whimsicott, Hydreigon, Togekiss, Arcanine, and Rotom Wash.
Yeah, lots of interesting stuff here. I mean, first of all, obviously the Togedemaru and the Hydreigon on Alberto's end, two Pokemon that aren't really super common in this format, but here they are. I think Eric opting for a relatively, meta standard team. In fact, this is something I would have expected maybe to see in like week 1 or week 2 of the metagame. Corviknight's a Pokemon I definitely have my eye out on. I think a lot of people had a lot of, thought it was going to be a really strong pick going into this year, and it definitely has had some really solid performances, but feels like it's often tough to really fit onto a team, doesn't really maybe pull its weight, so I am excited to see if that makes an appearance. And I mean, yeah, Togedemaru and Hydreigon are both really, really interesting picks here on Alberto's end. So, the dynamic of this matchup is interesting as always. Togekiss has a lot of impact, but we have to ask who, are you support-oriented or are you more offensively oriented? Alberto, of course, does have the Tailwind with Whimsicott, whereas Eric does not have speed control through Tailwind. Instead, you've got to, maybe boost your speed through Sand with Excadrill, or maybe Corviknight, if it's running a flying type attack, can Dynamax and go for max flying.
Well, it looks like we're not going to see a reveal of the Excadrill on Eric's side of the field just yet. Instead, Togekiss is going to be Tyranitar's partner out on the field. Alberto leading with Whimsicott and Rotom Wash.
Yeah, I think Tyranitar an excellent lead here from Erickson. If you look at Alberto's team, there's not really any Pokemon that can hit it for maybe like fighting type super effective. So it's already not threatened that much, and then partner with Togekiss is protected even more. So it's actually kind of a prime position for maybe Tyranitar to just Dynamax and start going for damage. Maybe, max Rockfall. You can even opt for a max Knuckle to increase your attack.
Yeah, and if he does go for the Dynamax on the Tyranitar here, you have to wonder if it's going to be holding that weakness policy item that we've been seeing do such amazing work, not only throughout this, today, but also throughout the format since we switched over back in January. Tyranitar is going to be the one that Dynamaxes, so if Alberto does hit it with some super effective damage and it is holding that weakness policy, it is going to be a tremendous threat for the Pokemon on Alberto's side of the field. Whimsicott starting things off with a Tailwind to boost the speed as it does best, and Rotom is going to immediately follow it up with a Nasty Plot to boost its special attack by 2 stages. So a move that we've been seeing a lot here today in Australia, and one that's definitely very helpful as a Max Knuckle is revealed from that Tyranitar going to crash into that Rotom.
Yeah, I like the Max Knuckle play there. I think some players might be tempted to maybe go for a Max Rockfall into the Whimsicott, maybe pick up a knockout, but the thing is that Whimsicott really doesn't do too much once Tailwind is set up. The big question now is, does it have Energy Ball? A lot of Whimsicotts earlier on in the metagame were carrying a grass type attack, but nowadays not as frequent, especially as Gastrodon became maybe a little bit less popular. But great switch in by Eric there. That covers every option, right? If you Thunderbolt into the Togekiss, Gastrodon eats that up. If you go for a water type attack into Tyranitar, Gastrodon soaks that up. So even though Rotom gets the Nasty Plot off, if it's not running like Dark Pulse, it can't even really do anything other than Thunderbolt Tyranitar, and that's not going to do any damage.
Well, no Dark Pulse revealed yet from that Rotom. Instead, going for a Protect. Gastrodon going to Protect as well. So if Alberto was thinking that a Nasty Plot plus a Water type attack would be enough to remove that Tyranitar from the field, that's not going to happen. Moonblast from Whimsicott into that protecting Gastrodon, and then the Rockfall almost getting the KO on Rotom through the Protect thanks to a critical hit.
Yeah, so Whimsicott there going for the Fake Tears, not going for something like a Energy Ball or a Grass Knot there. So that's a big reveal there as well. Indicates to me that maybe it's not carrying it, and I think that makes it a lot more difficult for Alberto. What is positive for Alberto right now is that he's already stalled out 2 turns of Dynamax, and Dynamax will end after this turn. But Whimsicott and Rotom still can't really do very much here, right? Even if you go for a Fake Tears into Gastrodon, once again, Rotom is just not doing any damage right now. We've seen Protect and Nasty Plot, so if it's running the typical Thunderbolt Hydro Pump, you don't even have Dark Pulse to hit the Gastrodon. So I think Alberto probably has to sacrifice one of his Pokemon and then basically try to play saying, okay, now Dynamax is over, I'm going to try to Dynamax what I ever have in the back. But the question is, who's the candidate to Dynamax? Is there a Pokemon here that can hit the Tyranitar for super effective, right? Like maybe close combat from Arcanine, but that's pretty much the only thing that can really do a lot of damage.
And the fact that Alberto has gone another turn without switching, to me, implies that he does need a couple more turns of, momentum on the field, or maybe even just trying to stall out that Dynamax as Tyranitar goes for another Max Knuckle for the KO onto Rotom. Whimsicott is able to connect to Fake Tears this turn, however. So Gastrodon is the only Pokemon left on the field to move, and you have to wonder if it's going to be targeting that Whimsicott for some damage, maybe to break, you know, get it down into KO range, but instead going for a recover, and its health is full.
Yeah, going for the recover just to cover any options. Perhaps Rotom, you know, has actually Dark Pulse over one of Thunderbolt and Hydro Pump, and or maybe like Whimsicott does have a Grass type attack, so just covering all your options there, especially if Gastrodon does have a Rindo Berry. So I like that. It's safe. Tyranitar's at +2 attack now. Whimsicott really still isn't doing much.
Yeah.
Now the thing is that Dynamax is over, so if you bring in something offensive, for example, maybe Moonblast and Dazzling Gleam from Togekiss and Whimsicott can pick up the knockout onto Tyranitar. One play Eric could consider though is perhaps protecting the Tyranitar, switching in Gastrodon into Togekiss, which now has, you know, redirection support. The other thing to notice is that Whimsicott and Togekiss are obviously both Fairy type, and so with 2 Steel type Pokemon in Eric's team, either Excadrill or Corviknight could be a great 4th Pokemon to have. So I think Eric in a very prime position. If he's able to actually get a Rock Slide off, I mean, it would just be a double knockout on both of these Pokemon, and there is the switch out from Gastrodon.
Yeah, Gastrodon is going to be leaving the field, and Togekiss is coming back on the field in its place, so we do not know his 4th Pokemon yet, but Alberto will be taking this opportunity to go ahead and Dynamax that Togekiss that was just brought in.
Yeah, so, you know, it certainly makes sense. It actually could have been interesting to not Dynamax this turn if you're expecting the Tyranitar to, I don't know, maybe protect you and get Dazzling Gleam off, get some damage. The question here for me is really, who did Togekiss target? Did it call the switch in, basically?
Well, Tyranitar is going to start things off with a Protect, so if Togekiss decided to target it, it won't be taking as much damage. Moonblast going into the protecting Tyranitar, and Max Starfall from that Togekiss will be targeting that Tyranitar as well, and thanks to the Protect and its high special defense, it's not going to do any damage, but you know, it will set up that Misty Terrain in case any of these Pokemon want to set up status moves, but I think more importantly, we do get the reveal of the weakness policy on that Tyranitar, which is just going to boost its attack that much higher.
Yeah, this is a +4 attack Tyranitar now. I think, you know, you can certainly justify the play that Alberto made there if you don't pull that switch out, and maybe if Alberto gets or Eric gets aggressive, you pick up that knockout. But Alberto also could have gone for an aggressive prediction, maybe go for Fake Tears and Max Starfall until the Togekiss switch in. But of course, Tyranitar doesn't protect there, goes for Rock Slide. That's probably just game over. But now you can very easily just go for Follow Me Rock Slide. There's really no counterplay to that, unless you have Taunt on Whimsicott.
Yeah, and the fact that Togekiss is forced to max guard here on Alberto's side of the field means that this Whimsicott most likely will be trading 1 turn of Fake Tears into that Togekiss, try and drop its special attack so that way Alberto's Togekiss can pick up a KO the next turn and just avoid this Rock Slide, which is going to be so powerful. I mean, you normally are afraid of Rock Slide in any situation just because of the just because it has the opportunity to flinch, but the fact that this Tyranitar is at +4 attack makes it that much more scarier.
Yeah, so the real question is, you know, yeah, what do you have in the back? It's the Hydreigon, which is, this is going to be interesting. I mean, first of all, I have to wonder how fast. Normally it is going to be faster than Togekiss. Is it carrying something like can hit the Togekiss for super effective damage? Because obviously a Rock Slide will just be able to pick up a knockout right now. So, you know, Alberto has to knock out the Togekiss, which is pretty much always going to go for Follow Me. So let's see if Hydreigon can knock it out. Otherwise, Tyranitar's just... Oh, there's Flash Cannon, but... Oh, the Babiri Berry as well should save it here. Let's see.
I don't know. That Fake Tears certainly will help, but the Babiri Berry as well will cancel out, I think, a lot of the benefit and leaves Togekiss on the field with just enough health to tank whatever attack this Togekiss on Alberto's side of the field throws out. It is going to be that Max Starfall, so... You know, good news for Alberto, the Togekiss is gone, but bad news is that this Tyranitar is now free to go for yet another Rock Slide. It does connect with both Pokemon. Doesn't get the knockout on Togekiss, but that Hydreigon, unfortunately, is just, you know, completely KO'd.
Yeah, and I think Eric played this game near flawlessly. I think Tyranitar, as we can see now, is a really tough Pokemon for Alberto to deal with, especially when partnered by Gastrodon. Without the Gastrodon, Rotom can Nasty Plot, and we actually saw a really key reveal there as well. Excadrill comes out and shows that it actually is Mold Breaker.
Yeah.
So, curious Eric decided to bring that out rather than the Gastrodon, but perhaps he just wanted to guarantee the game instead of, you know, getting crit multiple times. That is a pretty big piece of information, though, as Excadrill here will close out the game.
Yeah, and it's interesting that he's running Mold Breaker on Excadrill next to the Tyranitar. You know, a lot of times trainers choose to run these two together with the Sandstream ability, so you have to wonder if there's some sort of matchup or some sort of situation that this Excadrill was, you know, primed for.
Yeah, but, you know, going back into that, I think Alberto had the tools to win that one, but The lead matchup was really tough for him. Whimsicott and Rotom is just not going to cut it against Tyranitar and Gastrodon. I think Eric played it safely, played it smartly. I like that he, started out with the Togekiss, maybe tried to bait out something, and then just immediately switch out into that Gastrodon. So I think for Alberto, he has to go back to the drawing board and look at his team and say, okay, how do I actually beat weakness policy Tyranitar? Because I've got ways to hit it for super effective, but it's Whimsicott, it's Togekiss. Those are just going to activate weakness policy, as we saw. And then like Rock Slide has such good coverage against this entire team. So, the first thing I have to wonder is maybe Arcanine can come out. If it has Will-O-Wisp, if it has close combat, one of those two certainly will help. Even if without either, like you at least have Intimidate. But the tough thing is you just cannot rely on Rotom Wash to be the Tyranitar check because of Gastrodon. I think Eric is pretty much always going to support the Tyranitar with Gastrodon just to be safe. It would be super risky not to. And he now knows it looked like Whimsicott didn't even have, a grass type attack, which I think is a really, really big deal here as well.
Yeah, the fact that Alberto can't, or seemingly can't hit that Gastrodon with super effective damage means it's a pretty safe pick to bring regardless of, what other Pokemon that Eric decides to bring with him out on the field. Gastrodon, it's so bulky. It can just sit on the field and sort of pick up a little bit of damage with moves like Scald, so that when Eric's other Pokemon come in and need to do, the big damage to pick up those knockouts, those Pokemon are already in range. And I really like how he has Recover on there as well, because that just allows Gastrodon to remain on the field for just that much longer. It didn't come into play in Game 1, but it definitely has to be on Alberto's mind going into Game 2.
Yeah, and I think that game definitely highlighted why Whimsicott can still be kind of a tough Pokemon to use, because you use it for Tailwind and Fake Tears, but the Fake Tears didn't really do anything in that matchup.
Yeah.
And Eric was able to say, hey, I don't care if you're faster than me. My Tyranitar's so bulky, you're not going to be able to KO it anyway. So I think Alberto definitely has to consider the lead matchup a little bit better. I think, Whimsicott Rotom actually looks really good against Tyranitar and Excadrill, but the key problem is that if Gastrodon switches in, especially without something like Dark Pulse, Rotom is just absolutely useless, and that first turn effectively goes to waste. So I think for Alberto to win, he might want to consider some adjustments. I think I'd love to see him bring Arcanine. I definitely would like to see a different lead matchup as well. I don't think Rotom is really going to cut it as a lead, especially now it's Mold Breaker Excadrill as well, so it's even weaker. I think Rotom maybe just stays out of this match, and maybe you prioritize a more, Togekiss or Hydreigon offensive game. I think one thing that could have happened that last game, as we saw, is if you're able to snowball kills, or KOs I should say, there was that opportunity to go for maybe Fake Tears and Max Airstream or Max Starfall until the Togekiss switch in. You have to make some more aggressive plays because this matchup does not favor you very much.
Yeah, but that Whimsicott still would be a useful Pokemon to have just because of that Fake Tears and the fact that a lot of Alberto's team is built around these specially attacking Pokemon. But Alberto switching things up entirely with a Hydreigon Rotom Wash lead against Eric's lead of that Tyranitar and the Excadrill we saw back in Game 1.
Yeah, so wasn't expecting Rotom Wash to come back here. Eric making an adjustment as well, saying I'm just going to go heavier on offense, set up the stand immediately. Excadrill now can thread in with a big knockout on either Pokemon. We don't know the item. We only saw Iron Head, so that's going to be a big deal. But because it is Mold Breaker, Rotom is threatened immensely right now.
Yeah.
And Hydreigon, does get access to super effective attacks. We saw Flash Cannon if it's probably running something like Draco Meteor, Dark Pulse, but you get access to fire type attack as well, potentially to hit the Excadrill, but the question is, what item is Excadrill, right? You have to worry about so many different things. It's not weakness policy, but it could be Focus Sash, could be Assault Vest as well. So despite not being faster or not getting the Sandstream boost, it's still a really good Pokemon to have out right now. We actually see kind of like a Bane and actually switches out here, maybe expecting the Rotom to protect or switch out.
Yeah, well, that Togekiss is going to take the Excadrill's place as Alberto does switch out the Rotom for the Arcanine. So a couple of adjustments here from Alberto, maybe leaving that Whimsicott behind in favor of the Arcanine like you were talking about. And I think more importantly, getting that Intimidate down onto the onto that Tyranitar before it can attack. Not only are we seeing these trainers switch Pokemon around going into this game, we're also seeing a Dynamax immediately from Alberto this time. It's going to be the Dynamax Hydreigon, which has a lot of interesting potential, assuming it is carrying a Dark-type move with something like a Max Darkness, which will be able to get special defense drops that'll just start to stack one upon the other. But, you see one Pokemon Dynamax, you might as well join it with one of your own, as that Tyranitar is also going to Dynamax immediately this turn 1.
Yeah, so trading Dynamaxes, the Intimidate will obviously be a lot more helpful now for Alberto. Last game, Tyranitar was really just able to run through, so I think Alberto is probably just going to target around the Tyranitar until the Dynamax ends. Definitely does not want to activate a weakness policy as we saw in the last game, and like you said, that Max Darkness coming out. So nice switching here. Togekiss still takes so much damage there. Wow.
Yeah, that was not very effective,
yeah, that was a crit.
But thanks to the critical hit, it was able to do to over half health of damage and also drop that special defense of that Tyranitar by a stage. So maybe when Alberto does decide to go on the offensive and hit that Tyranitar with those super effective attacks, it might be more likely to KO, but that Tyranitar going immediately for a max Rockfall into that Arcanine, able to pick up the one-hit knockout even through the Intimidate. So that is definitely a tough trade for Alberto there.
Yeah, I mean, I think in this position, Hydreigon isn't like the biggest threat, even if it Dynamaxes, because Tyranitar has a pretty optimal matchup against it. So a big knockout there to eliminate Arcanine, though. I mean, that's like the main thing that's really stopping Tyranitar and Excadrill. So now Excadrill doesn't have to worry about Intimidates. Arcanine is also naturally faster than Excadrill. We know this is Mold Breaker Excadrill. So getting that out the way, I think gives Eric a really, really great lead. Now, of course, the critical hit was, makes it so that Togekiss is in a more tricky position. You might want to consider swapping out here. Tyranitar is in a good spot, especially because Rotom, can't Dynamax, so even like a max Steel Spike from Hydreigon and a Hydro Pump, I don't think will knock out Tyranitar. And, like, if you go for any super effective attack, you'll activate the weakness policy as well. So, Eric definitely has a quick lead here. His Togekiss is threatened, so you might want to consider just sacking it by going for a Follow Me. Could also consider switching out, or even just clicking the Dazzling Gleam button.
Yeah, I was going to say, you have to wonder if switching out to that Gastrodon, if Eric brought it, would have been tempted here, just because we saw that Rotom rely on potentially a Water-type attack earlier. You have to think it's Rotom Wash for a reason, but instead that Togekiss just taking that Max Darkness from that Hydreigon, no redirection, Rotom going for a Thunderbolt into that Tyranitar, and Tyranitar firing back a Max Knuckle into that Hydreigon to boost its attack by one stage.
Yeah, so Rotom going for the Thunderbolt there, and I like that. I think you do have the opportunity to Nasty Plot, but the thing is, if Gastrodon's in the back, you have to knock out Gastrodon, otherwise you can't even, you're not able to really do much more, so might as well get some damage onto Tyranitar. I think Nasty Plot could have still been worth it in the sense that you can Thunderbolt the Tyranitar after Dynamax ends, but now Excadrill gets to come in cleanly, threatens Rotom with the Mold Breaker, so there's still one more turn of Dynamax from both Pokemon, but I mean, something just like a Ground-type attack into Rotom and either a Max Knuckle or a Max Rockfall into Hydreigon will put Alberto, I think, in a really tough position. And yeah, I think the matchup is just not very favorable because he just doesn't have a way to really deal with Tyranitar at all if you look at his team.
Yeah, and that's a really tough Pokemon to have a tough matchup against because so many people love to run Tyranitar with weakness policy in this format. And just the presence of that Gastrodon is really going to be huge as we see a Max Steel Spike almost pick up the KO on Tyranitar. It just misses it, but if that Rotom potentially doubled into that Tyranitar slot with a Thunderbolt, this might be the knockout that Alberto's looking for. Certainly he has to at least try for it as we see that weakness policy activate
Is it
once
Thunderbolt?
again.
Oh, it is!
Thunderbolt into that Tyranitar, and it does pick up the KO. So Alberto, the Gastrodon on the field isn't great, but with, two of his opponent's Pokemon available to his own 3, you have to wonder if that's going to be enough of an edge for him to power through and bring himself into a Game 3.
Yeah, I was really surprised to see Excadrill switch out there because in that position, unless you think the Hydreigon's able to, one-shot the Excadrill, but even if it does, I mean, Tyranitar's not getting knocked out by Rotom there, so a really nice double up there by Alberto to pick up a knockout. Now, the game's not over yet, but I felt like that was a position to potentially just go for, a ground-type attack into Rotom and Tyranitar going for, some attack into Hydreigon. So I was kind of surprised to see that. This gives Alberto a Pokemon lead now, but the thing is that Rotom can't really do anything. Actually, can't click Hydro Pump or Thunderbolt against either of these two Pokemon, so it's probably going to want to consider switching out. The big question now is, what other moves does Hydreigon have? What's the speed for Hydreigon compared to Excadrill? What moves does Gastrodon have? Despite Alberto picking up a big knockout here, like Rotom is pretty much useless at this point, so even though it's like a 3-on-2, it still kind of feels like a 2-on-2. The Hydreigon was, basically one attack away from getting knocked out. And so I have to wonder what the last Pokemon is also on Alberto's, and if it is something like that Togekiss, doesn't fare super well against something like Excadrill.
Yeah, and you have to wonder if you're Alberto, like, what is your game plan for this Rotom moving forwards? I mean, you can certainly go for a bunch of nasty plots, but you're not going to be able to use them. Thunderbolt into the protecting Excadrill, it wouldn't have hit anyways, as Earth Power is revealed on that Hydreigon. Scald from Gastrodon will connect with the Rotom, but, it gets the burn, which will certainly help. But again, this Rotom is essentially stuck on the field regardless.
Yeah, and players might be curious, why did the Rotom stay in there and click
Yeah.
Thunderbolt? Well, there's really no other option. I mean, there's no point in clicking something like Nasty Plot because, like, Thunderbolt. The Nasty Plot can, I guess, come into play once you knock out Gastrodon, but Hydro Pump is, like, probably getting a 2-hit KO on Excadrill anyway, so you don't want to basically risk switching into your last Pokemon, which is probably going to be very essential in dealing with the Excadrill and Gastrodon, and, you know, taking unnecessary damage. So, you know, one turn of Sand left here. Hydreigon once again, you know, potentially one attack away from getting knocked out. I have to wonder if Gastrodon has something like Ice Beam. If so, that can probably knock it out, but if not, you're going to have to target it down with Excadrill.
Well, it's also interesting to me that the Hydreigon did target the Excadrill that last turn. And seeing that Alberto's last Pokemon is going to be that Togekiss, I think that he's mostly worried about the Excadrill going for those super effective, you know, Steel-type attacks into this Togekiss. As we finally get to see the Excadrill's held item, it is going to be that Focus Sash, as Earthquake will not connect with either of the Pokemon on Alberto's side of the field, but will deal some damage to his own Gastrodon. So a good switch there. Actually, Mold Breaker did affect Levitate on that Hydreigon. So thanks to the Scald from that Gastrodon, able to pick up the KO. But still, you know, the whole match for Alberto is really riding on this Togekiss right now. That's the only Pokemon he has that can, you know, pick up the KO on Excadrill and even threaten this Gastrodon.
Yeah, this is going to be a close finish. I mean, Rotom, once again, can't really do anything against a Gastrodon. And we've seen that this Gastrodon has recovered, so I mean, if you Scald, you burn the Togekiss. Like, Iron Head itself should do a ton of damage, but I don't think it's picking up that knockout. So then the question is, you know, do you click Recover this turn? I mean, I would think so, and then probably go for Scald, Protect, and alternate between the two. But Togekiss reveals Protect, which is actually a really big deal here, which prevents it from getting hit by an Iron Head.
Yeah, Excadrill does go for the Iron Head, targeting down that Togekiss as the Rotom uses a Nasty Plot. So we do get to see a nice little, you know, move animation there. Maybe he has a bright idea on how he can maybe do some more damage once the Gastrodon has been removed from the field, as Eric just targets down that Togekiss with both his Pokemon.
Yeah, so, I mean, Excadrill here is in a really interesting position. I mean, given that it went from Earthquake, I have to wonder if it doesn't have high horsepower, meaning that if you want to hit the Rotom, like, you'd have to click Earthquake here. I think probably just go for the Iron Head into Togekiss again. But I have to really wonder what set this Togekiss is. If it's running Protect, I mean, a fair amount of times it's, like, rather offensive. Let's see how much Iron Head does here.
Yeah, it is going to be a definite 2-hit knockout, as that wasn't even a critical hit. It leaves Togekiss with such little health. And we also see a flinch from that Iron Head, unfortunately, meaning that the Gastrodon is able to pick up the KO, and it's just that poor Rotom against the world, so to speak. I don't think it's going to be doing much else for the remainder of this game.
Yeah.
But what a close match.
Focus Sash on Excadrill here really, really saved it, allowing it to survive that one attack from Hydreigon. And you know, Gastrodon, a great, great late game Pokemon here against Alberto's team. I think this matchup was just really, really tough for Alberto. And it goes to show, I mean, I think Eric played the fundamentals of this set really, really well.